Nameco, Dustin, welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. We're heading into week 10. Trade deadline is rapidly approaching. We got a little bit of tips and advice for you to maybe help you get a trade done. But before we get into that, quick shout out to Gilbert, our week 9 winner from out in Arizona. Congratulations. Fancy shirt coming in the mail. Brent, hit him with some advice.
All right, and when we're talking about trades, the trade deadline, like Dustin said, is just upon us. And if you want to get something done, it seems to be getting tougher and tougher to get trades done. At least it is in our leagues. So with that said, the best way to do it in leagues, especially if you don't know people, is really use those notes. Use the tools that they give you. So in the little note down there, tell them why you think the trade's good for them, and even put it why you're looking to do the trade. If if they're deep at running back and you're deep at receiver and you think a swap's a good idea, let them know that so you can go from there.
And it also just lets them know that you're thinking about it and that you're willing to work out a trade that makes sense for both teams. Now, one example that doesn't happen is in one of my leagues, I had Gronkowski and Graham as my tight ends. I got them both later in the draft. I was happy about that. And someone sent me, I believe I had the Garrett Blunt, and they sent me where I would receive Finley for Blunt. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I'll take on a third tight end. Like, you have to make sure it makes sense for the team that you're sending the trade to, or else they're just gonna write you off as a guy that's just throwing trades out there. And another thing is, don't be that guy. And when I say that guy, I mean the guy that looks at a trade and just instantly looks at the names and thinks that, oh, this is a bull trade, and sends back like Mason Crosby for Aaron Rodgers just to be an ass. And it just burns bridges. I'm not gonna name any names, Curtis. But it just makes that other team not ever want to trade with you ever again that year, and just don't ever burn bridges when making trades.
At this point in the season, you can look at this year's numbers. You don't have to go with their pre-rankings, honestly.
Let's move into Stardom, Situm. We got our forum questions. First one comes from one of my favorite forum names. Look, it's me, Mr. Chris. Big fan of that one. We got Tony Romo versus Buffalo, Phillip Rivers versus Oakland. Both these guys are at home. Right now, it's an even split on the homepage.
Well, out of these two, I'm going to go with Phillip Rivers. And I know he's been a little disappointing, but he had a fairly good game last week, even though he threw some picks. And as far as Oakland goes on a defensive front, their front seven's pretty good. So the way you do attack them is through the air. And I see Phillip Rivers hooking up with Gates and Vincent Jackson and having a pretty good week. On a side note, I actually really like Phillip Rivers going forward, so if you can get him as a buy low, I think now's still a great time to do that. All right, Dustin, Sparty Fan 17 wants to know, should it be starting Laurent Robinson versus Buffalo or Mario Manningham, our boy, at the 49ers? The community with 67% is saying Robinson.
I mean, both these guys have fairly decent matchups. You know, San Francisco, you can pass on them a little bit, but they are on the road in San Francisco. Robinson's at home in Dallas. I like that, obviously. And Robinson, with Austin out, has played pretty well. Surprisingly well, actually. I'm giving the slight edge to Robinson on this one. And also, too, there's a chance Nix comes back this week, which is going to hurt Manningham a little bit. Slight edge to Robinson. All right, Brent, we got a tough running back question for you from TKKT 1193. Ryan Matthews versus Oakland or Reggie Bush versus Washington. About 63% are going Matthews right now.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the community on this one. And as I was saying with Rivers, you know, Oakland does have a decent front seven, but Matthews was held out last week almost as a precautionary. I think if it was an emergency situation, he could have gotten to that game. He should be fine to go on Thursday night. All signs are pointing to being 100%. And I just like his upside. I think his ceiling is just higher than Reggie Bush's.
PPR league, I'm saying Reggie Bush. Both these guys are going to split, so I'd rather go with the guy that's going to get 4 or 5 catches. But it's close.
Can't hate on that. I still go Matthews. Can't hate on it.
Studs, duds, and sleeper time. We'll start with my stud. Obviously, I was going to go Tim Tebow, but I figured I probably shouldn't be picking him with something every week. So I'm going with our boy DeMarco Murray. Brent's trying to pull him away and saying that he's only his boy, even though we've both been high on him. But Brent can try.
Check the tape right before. I think I called it, and they're still going to win the division, as I said on the tape. But
before that show even happened, I was trading up waiver picks to get Murray. So he can try to take him from me, but he's our boy. DeMarco Murray against Buffalo. We've seen what he's done the last few weeks. He's been amazing. My dud, Tom Brady against the Jets. They're the best pass D as far as fantasy points go to quarterbacks. Now, before you go benching Tom Brady for John Beck, he's still going to have a decent game. But I'm just saying, hey, you got Timmy Tebow on your bench. Maybe.
That's the bets.
Maybe.
By the way, every week you've been keeping track at home. Dustin takes Tebow because he loves him. And I take another quarterback with kind of a matchup. This week, he's giving me Tom Brady versus Tim Tebow.
Straight up,
I'm up 2-1 right now.
I'll do it. And my sleeper, Santonio Holmes against New England. Holmes has just been kind of okay this year. He has been finding the end zone, which has been saving him a lot of weeks. This matchup against New England, I got somewhat high hopes for him. I think he has a decent week.
Absolutely. All right, my stud, Chris Johnson. Had a good week last week. Love that. Just traded for him one of my leagues prior to it. And with Chris Johnson this week, he's playing Carolina. They're ranked 27th versus the run. And that's the way you attack them. Keep Cam Newton off the field. And you just run at them all day because they're terrible at tackling. Chris Johnson, big game this week, gets in the end zone. My dud is Brandon Lloyd versus the Browns. You've heard me talk about Joe Hayden before. He's a great shutdown corner. And the Browns are a very, very good pass defense. Partly because they're such a bad run defense. Everyone runs on them. But regardless, I think that Brandon Lloyd's going to be my dud this week. And my sleeper is Chris Ogbonnaya of the Cleveland Browns. I believe I even said that right. Impressed with myself. You know, he was very disappointing last week with getting all of the touches. He fumbled on his first play. You might have picked him up and then dropped him because you're totally against it. But he plays the Rams this week. They are dead last versus the run. I like him. He's going to get all of the touches. If you're in a spot, he's a good guy to grab.
All right, let's move into Mike's picks. His stud, Cam Newton. Coming off a bye, he's got a fairly weak Tennessee defense. Cam Newton should be able to have a solid game. Should be starting him. His dud, Marshawn Lynch. He had that big game last week. Really surprised a lot of people up against a tough run defense in Dallas. But this week he's got Baltimore. He doesn't see a repeat performance for Lynch. And his sleeper, Torrey Smith, going up against a weak Seattle secondary. Seattle gives up a lot of big plays. Torrey Smith is a big play guy. We like to think he might get a long touchdown this week. So that's it for our Week 10 show. I'm still gonna battle with Brent over Murray, but I'm taking full credit. With Murray again. Full credit on Damian Williams.
Obviously, that's an insecure kind of statement because I wasn't thinking about it.
If he tries to start stealing Damian Williams,
you can have Damian Williams.
Then I don't want really draw the line.
All Dustin.
If you got any questions, post them in the forums. Good luck this week. We'll see you later.
Peace.